Everyone to the Cranston City Council regularly scheduled monthly meeting for the month of May. Today is Tuesday, May 28th. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to please call the attendance.
Councilman Ferry,
Here.
Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilwoman Horoyan,
Present.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas. Where'd he go? Oh, he just, yeah. Councilman Wall,
Here.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present. At this time, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. First up this evening, we have approval of minutes. We have several meetings minutes. I would entertain a motion to take the approval of the minutes as a block.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas, not bad, Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. And now do I have a motion relative to the approval of that block?
So moved. Second.
Okay. It's a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. At this time, we will be addressing the citations in recognition to the Cranston Combined Percussion Ensemble. These are students and instructors as recipients of the New England Scholastic Band Association 2024 Percussion Scholastic A Champion and WGI Percussion Scholastic A World Championship semifinalist. At this time, I would ask their band leader, Mr. Arsenault, to come forward, as well as staff members Grayson Boudreau, Dylan Bukowski, Simon Ferreira, Jordan Kaiser, Samantha Hackinson, John Monroe, Dr. Anthony Torelli, and Jameson Ward. Yeah, you can come. This evening, we have the opportunity to express our gratitude and recognition to this absolutely wonderful blessing within our city. For those of you who are not familiar and those of you who are not band parents, this group is exactly what it says. It's Cranston Combined Percussion. These are students from western part of the city, from eastern part of the city. These are all our Cranston Public School students and staff who have come together in their private time. This goes above and beyond the daily school band activities to participate in these competitions. Some of us are proud band parents, may not be the combined percussion, but myself and I believe Councilman Ferry, your children many years ago, because they've since graduated from college, yes.
Many years ago.
Right. And there's something that many band parents say, once a band parent, always a band parent. There's a pride even in the children who are not our own relative to the work that goes into it. And I want to do something a little different this evening. I'll say a few more words and then we're going to ask for all of the students to come forward And then I will call out each individual student's name and we'll take applause at the end. And Mr. Arsenault will be expressing some words then at that time, and then he will hand out the citations to all the students, okay, and staff. The other things I wanted to mention this evening with respect to the accomplishments is that I was admiring from afar. For those of you who don't know, there were numerous steps along the way, and this was quite an accomplishment. Mr. Arsenault has expressed that he believes it's the first band in the state to ever accomplish this. They traveled to Ohio. Was it Cleveland? Yep, Cleveland. Dayton, Ohio, via bus, correct? Yes, yes, yep, I know some of the parents, I heard. Yes, yeah, yep. And the intangibles of that experience is something that will last a lifetime. I understand the students placed 20th. That is something that deserves a round of applause for certain. And I can't stress enough that couldn't be accomplished without all the dedication from the band leaders, the family members, and the students themselves. And at this time, if we could have the students come forward as part of the band, and then I will announce their names. Yeah. Feel free to go in to the right if you need to, too. That's okay. Yep. Okay. Okay. And again, we'll take applause at the end. We want to congratulate Hamza Al-Tarazi, Lucas Arsenault, Nathan Arsenault, Michael Carey, Anthony Tavaria, Zoe De Silva, John Davenport, Caleb Dorvillieri, Jamie Escalante, James Fabiano, Allison Flores, Eston Fowler, Kyle Herman, Alexis Kelshaw, Amaryllis Miller, Annabella Alobri, Pablo Perez, Jonathan Quiroa, Madeline Rodriguez, Adrian Rosales, Jefferson Shee, Lindsay So, Danny Song, Alexander Torelli, Lucius Torciello, Jamie Vaccarano, Zephaniah Vadier, Nathaniel Yeomans. And now our applause. Great job.
All right, I'm Greg Arsenault. Thank you so much for this recognition tonight. I want to just make sure I publicly thank all of the band parents, all of the volunteers, the alumni, all of the local business people, all of the neighbors and friends and supporters for supporting us throughout the season. We would not have made it to the World Championships without all of your support, financial, bringing your kids to practice, making sure they got there, supporting them, making sure they were on track to do everything they needed to do. So I just thank the entire community for your support because it really does mean a lot. And this is really an above and beyond activity, but these kids, this is the future of our community here. And that's why I do it. I love percussion. I love drumming. I'm a music geek. I'm a band geek, but I love it because it teaches these kids that doing something in a collective where you're responsible to everybody else is really the way we all have to operate in terms of our community, right? So it's community service in and of itself, serving each other. And that's why I do it. So thank you to everybody for your support across the board. And thank you, President Marino, for recognizing us and the council in general. We're just so thankful for everything. And I certainly am. It's very gratifying being an educator of almost 30 years to have this kind of recognition and such a fantastic group of kids to teach. So again, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. And you may take your seats, or even better, carry on with some fun things for the evening rather than sticking around here. Thank you. Okay. Next this evening on the agenda are public hearings, public comment. At this time, we will be taking public comment on any docketed matters only in chambers and on Zoom. Please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to be heard on any docketed matters this evening?
Okay, better? All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the City Council. My name is Alan Reyes, and I live at 10 Chestnut Avenue. I rise today not just as a community member, but also as a community organizer with the Childhood-Led Action Project, the only organization in the state dedicated to childhood-lead poisoning prevention. I rise today to commend the City Council on the passage of the Lead Safe Homes Ordinance and speak on to the implementation of this new law. Back in February of this year, I submitted an APRA request to the Building Inspections Department asking for all records of violations issued in 2023 for lead paint or lead hazards. I cited the Lead Hazard Mitigation Act and the relevant property maintenance codes, which the city ordinance is based on, but was told that no such records existed. I followed this up with a meeting with Anna Marie Marchetti, who also confirmed that no enforcement was being done as it related to lead paint and missing lead certificates. Since our meeting, the city has issued 2 notices of violation for lead that we are aware of. One for the property at which I am a tenant and 1890 Broad Street. In both instances, tenants have had to actively advocate for themselves to get code officials to pay attention and do the right thing. In 2023, the city of Cranston saw one of the highest rates of childhood lead poisoning in the state. More can be done to prevent this. My organization has reached out with trainings and workshops for code officials, but so far we have been turned down. Please, let's work together to keep kids safe.
Good evening. My name is Susan Blake. I live at 173 Grand Avenue. I'd like to thank you for your time here tonight and for allowing me a couple of minutes to speak to you about this ordinance for lead-safe homes that Councilman Donegan has on the docket tonight. This ordinance requires committed, diligent code enforcement, and with only 2 inspectors presently working for our entire city, we need all involved parties to do their share of implementing the ordinance. And by involved parties, I mean tenants who are not fearful of retaliation when they ask to see their landlord's certificate of lead compliance or file a complaint about chipped and peeling paint. I'm also talking about forcing slumlords who currently shirk their responsibilities and don't comply with state law to obtain a certificate of lead compliance. The horrendous situation at 1890 Broad Street is living proof that slumlords like the mayor's friend Jeff Butler literally get away with anything and not remediate their problems. He knows the city won't follow up or follow through on complaints. Recently, one city resident had an appointment for a follow-up lead inspection and instead received an email to ask if everything was done. It's not the tenant's responsibility to do their own lead inspection. It's the city's responsibility and obligation. I'm part of a group of concerned citizens working with the Cranston Housing Justice Coalition and the Childhood Lead Action Project. We're trying to coordinate a lead safety meeting with the employees of the Minimum Housing Division of the Building Inspections Department regarding the new state laws on compliance, but have been met with disinterest. The Director of Building Inspections has been dodging emails from Alan Reyes, who just wants a meeting to explain what we offer. I have a favorite saying, management sets the tone. And this department has an unresponsive and disinterested tone that is so loud, it's deafening. That has to end. And as citizens of Cranston, we expect city officials to enforce code compliance, don't we? Inspectors must do the work thoroughly, enforce noncompliance, and fine when needed. So I'm asking for full council support on the enforcement of the ordinance going forward. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Melissa Potter. I'm a tenant of 1890 Broad Street. I'm here tonight because of the fact that the conditions that we've been living under for the last 2 years have been absolutely atrocious. We've gotten little to no support from the city, and it's disheartening when I've been a longtime Cranston resident. I graduated from Cranston East in 1996. And to see the city that I love allowing everything that's been going on at 1890 Broad Street go, and it's been going on, is one of the worst things that could ever make me, like, I'm not a politician. And the conditions we've been living under are horrendous. There's no code violations. There's no current lead certificates at all for anybody within the building. Every day, the property gets more and more treacherous for the tenants. So, you know, we want to know what's been done, what the building, is it actually structurally sound with everything that's been going on? Safety is a very huge concern. 7-foot trenches that appear outside our doors with no notification, no emails, nothing. Everything that's been going on the property has been done with no warning. Everybody that lives on the property, we just want to know when this is going to be done and what can be done to help us, because this has been going on for 2 years now. I moved in with my late fiance. He's been gone for 2 years, and this has been going on since 3 months after he passed away. So it's time to get some answers from the city and hope, you know, that everybody will help us and keep an eye on this. With the help of Reclaim, we formed a tenant union. All we've asked is for Jeff Butler to come to the negotiating table. He still has not done so. We shouldn't have had to go to the extremes that we've gone to in order to get simple things like safe living. It's a service provided. We pay our rent on time. We've been paying our rent throughout the entire course of this. It's not fair. We can't go outside. We can't do anything. We're prisoners in our own home. It's not right.
There being no one else in chambers, Tom, is there anyone on Zoom? Oh, there's someone. Okay, yep, go ahead.
I apologize. I was waiting to see if there was anybody else with the prior issue that wanted to speak to keep everything together. My name is Heather Burbach. I reside at 1975 Broad Street. I am here on behalf of the Rhode Island ACLU this evening, here about the letter that is docketed by Councilwoman Renzulli. And essentially, our letter very much speaks for itself. Our concerns, as we stated, are not based on any private or special information that we have, that we based our letter based on the public statements of all the parties involved. And our concerns were really about whether or not an investigation such as was allegedly threatened, is that within the scope of the city's charter requirements, and is that appropriate? That while the concerns that were raised, there are concerns there, that this isn't an ethics investigation, and that it wasn't being, as far as we can tell, anything done based on official authority. This was something being done by the councilperson, and her private capacity, and that we believe is a matter for other boards other than the city council, potentially the voters even. And so based on the comments, or based on the letter that we sent, we just wanted to let the council know that we are here. We have, if there's any questions, we are available to address those. Thank you.
Okay. And Tom, on Zoom, is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to be heard?
There is no public comment.
At this time, public comment on docketed matters is now closed. Next this evening, we have resolutions. We have a resolution recognizing May 19th to 25th as National Public Works Week. And this is sponsored by Councilwoman Renzulli, Councilman Paplaskas, and Councilman Campopiano. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. And discussion. Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Madam President. Happy to introduce this resolution to honor our great Public Works Department. Our Public Works Department has many micro departments within it: highway, engineering, building maintenance, traffic safety, mechanics, dispatchers, all members of our great laborers and Teamsters unions. They work very hard all year, every year, rain, snow, sleet, whatever we have going on, they're out there. Sometimes getting called in on a holiday too, if a storm comes in and we need them. But they do a lot behind the scenes. They make sure our trash is picked up, and this is a way to honor them. I didn't realize that this was the 64th annual Public Works Week. I'm actually a member of the Public Works Department. Matthew Volpe brought it to my attention. Today's his birthday. I'm going to use this to wish him a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Matt. Certainly appreciate all the work of our Public Works Department. That's why this is before us. Thank you.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Campopiano.
Thank you, Madam President. I also echo the words of Councilman Paplaskas. I always say that the Public Works is the face of the city. If they don't do a good job, the city doesn't look good. So I want to commend them on the great job that they do and the hours that they put in and the dedication to their job. And also happy birthday, Matt. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to note to the clerk if I could be marked present. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this resolution forward. As my colleague said, Public Works Department does a great deal around the city. They do house a bunch of departments underneath them. And with all the federal money that has come into the state, their work is going to be increasingly ramping up. And I think that advancing quality life for all is something that comes before us often. Equity across the city and Public Works has a lot to do with trying to make that happen. Thank you.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President Marino. Pretty much echoing what my colleagues here on the City Council have said. I'd like to thank as well everyone who works for our Public Works Department and continues to keep the quality of life going here in this great city of Cranston. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor if the sponsors so allow me to do so. And so again, they're one of the many backbones of the city of Cranston. So thank you for bringing this to the forefront, and I appreciate being added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Councilman Wall, then Councilwoman Haroyan.
I certainly won't belabor the point. I am greatly appreciative of the work that Public Works does and my short time on the council, and I also would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
I would like to echo all the positive things that were just said. I would like to be added if I could. I wish I had been asked and not just 3 Republicans' name on it and read about it on Facebook. On citations, we put everyone's name. And when you read about this on Facebook, it's a little disappointing.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Donegan,
Thank you. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Councilman Ferry,
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
and that makes all, myself included. We definitely value our labor within the city. We value our Public Works Department, and this is something that we can all celebrate together. So at this time, with no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, with committees, first we have the Claims Committee. Councilman Wall.
Thank you, Council President. The Claims Committee did in fact meet on May the 6th, 2024. The claims paid report was provided to the members of the council, and I have nothing further to report.
Thank you. Next, we have Safety Services and Licenses Committee. Councilman Ferry.
Thank you, Council President. We have two items tonight on the agenda tonight. The first is the Spot Bar and Grill located at 20 Rolfe Street. This license was approved in committee. I urge passage tonight. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Okay.
No discussion? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here from Spot Bar and Grill tonight? I would just recommend that you contact the clerk's office tomorrow and make sure everything is in order.
Client will be first thing in the morning with a check, and we're ready to go, and I appreciate the hard work that the safety committee put in and the confidence in the council, and this is gonna be a nice neighborhood place for the community.
Thank you very much. Good luck. You're welcome. We all say you're welcome. Next, we have Cafeology, located at 50 Hillside Road. This was approved by the Safety Services and Licensing Committee. I would recommend passage tonight. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion?
We need a second?
Second.
Is there a second? All right, any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Council President, I apologize. You know I like to run meetings.
It's fine, it's fine. We all do it from time to time. Next up, we have Finance Committee, Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. Several matters out of Finance Committee stemming from the May 6th, 2024 meeting. The first being a resolution authorizing real estate tax abatements as recommended by the tax assessor. This passed out of committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The second is consideration of tax interest waiver denials for the month of April 2024 as recommended by the city treasurer. This passed out of committee. I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Lastly, we have ordinance 03-2402, ordinance and amendment of Title II of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Administration and Personnel Minimum Wage, sponsored by myself, co-sponsored by Council Vice President Vargas, Councilman Ferry, Campopiano, Paplaskas, and Wall, Councilwoman Heroin, and Council President Marino. This was approved by the Finance Committee, and I would urge passage this evening.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. So just as brief background for anyone on the council or anyone listening, what this ordinance would do is it would, starting January 1, 2025, it would match the city's minimum wage to be what the state is going to be at $15 an hour. What it additionally does is it removes exemptions within state law that allows municipalities to pay below the minimum wage. And it also removes exemptions for like seasonal high school workers who might be working at a summer camp or Cranston Parks and Recs. So it removes those exemptions. The city is already paying them at what the minimum wage is. So, and for that reason, there's no fiscal impact, as attested by our finance director. But in the future, if budgets ever get tight, that's not a place that we can try and, tighten the belt, because whether they're in high school or they're in college or beyond, they deserve to get paid the minimum wage, and there shouldn't be an exemption for that. So I appreciate the support from the Finance Committee. I hope for the support of everyone again this evening. And I just also want to give a shout out to my sophomore honor history class, because it was a conversation in that class that kind of stemmed this ordinance. So kudos to them.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. I am not part of the Finance Committee, so I'd just like to ask Councilman Donegan if I could be added with everyone else. Thank you.
Any other council members wish to be heard? No. I want to thank Councilman Donegan for your leadership relative to this ordinance, and thank your students. Once again, good example of youth rising up. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next up this evening, we have Public Works Committee with Council Vice President Vargas.
Thank you, Council President. The Public Works Committee met on May 16th. There is nothing to report out of that committee. If you're okay, I'll just continue right on to the ordinance as well. Great. The Ordinance Committee also met on May 16, 2024, and there's nothing to report out of that committee this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Next is public comment for undocketed matters. First, we will take in chambers. Next, we will take on Zoom. If any member of the public wishes to be heard on any undocketed matters, please come up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments limited to 4 minutes. Thank you.
I'm back. Susan Blake, 173 Grand Ave. I'd like to talk about Budlong Pool again. Local architecture critic Will Morgan was recently quoted regarding this Superman building in Providence and saving it. He said, "A city that cannot save its most important mercantile tower needs to ask itself what it really cares about." The Industrial National Bank building is not only one of the great American skyscrapers, but it is one of the enduring symbols of Providence, unquote. I say, a city that will not save its most historically important municipal aquatic facility needs to ask itself what it really cares about. The Budlong Pool is not only one of the largest outdoor public pools in the country, but it is also the iconic symbol of Cranston. This was demonstrated each summer by the non-Cranston residents who would gladly pay the double entrance fee time and again just to enjoy Budlong Pool. Speaking of fees, Budlong consistently gathered plus or minus $40,000 each summer from admission fees, cash. So 5 summers times 40,000 is $200,000 that this city has lost out on due to the administration's disgusting abandonment. The proposed replacement will never come close to what we already have, and I guarantee that if the city sought a true physical inspection of the pool and not perpetuated this baseless nonsense that the pool leaks, that we could repair and quickly reopen our gem Budlong. I know more about who told the mayor that the pool leaked. I know that now. It's a claim that has been erroneously elevated by the mayor to fact status. And I would venture to say that this person is staying anonymous because they know it's a lie. But they told the mayor, who foolishly gave it fact status. Big mistake, expensive mistake. That's all it took, a guy who knows a guy. So for 5 summers now, the mayor has purposely neglected our watertight pool. He's fantasized about his new shiny object. And he's lied to the city council through Mr. Moretti over and over and over again about his plans for years now. How insulting. And yet you are accepting it. And now we have this new monstrosity of a mini kitty water feature on the horizon, on someone's unsubstantiated claim that the pool leaks, and a dramatically placed hose. Ooh. So some guy said that it was so it must be true. Sickening example of cheating on your homework, Mr. Mayor. You get an F for research. So I'm once again asking the city council to stand up to the mayor and get an independent, unaffiliated, professional structural inspection of the Budlong pool to determine its water tightness. Because I can tell you, it doesn't look like it's leaking. Not at the rate that everybody said it is. And the city can still avoid disastrous consequences and financial frivolity. Please, stand up what's clearly the right thing to do. Thank you.
My name is Robert Santuri. I live at 27 River Farm Road in Cranston. I've lived there for 16 years. I just want to say I had 2 heart attacks and a stroke last year. This is what I'm going through in my neighborhood. My next door neighbor, they got a basketball court. It's not just them. They have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl, but they invite like 10 other kids over. I live next to a basketball court now. I didn't buy a house next to a basketball court. They park all the time. They have cars come over. You can't even get down my street. And other than that, I lived in Cranston for 60 years. I graduated from Cranston High School East, so I just didn't show up here. But I'm at my ends with. I don't know what to do no more. I've talked to a few council members. Like this, it's unbelievable. You have an ordinance that says you can't park in you can't have it on the sidewalk. You can't have it in the street. So I talked to the guy Frank, Campbell, this compliance. He said it's a gray area. I go, what do you mean gray area? He goes, well, it's a law that you're not supposed to block the sidewalk, but we don't enforce it. So what's that mean? I don't know what to tell you. So when I'm here and then the intersection on Vale Avenue and my street, River Farm Road, there was an accident a couple of months ago. A car was doing 40 miles an hour through the stop sign. Went right through it. I got it on video. And then I went to the police station, told them, what's going on. They said, we're gonna try to get somebody over there, but we don't have enough help. So at least put a stop sign on the other side to protect the people, maybe they'll slow down. But I'm living in hell, just let you know.
Good evening. My name is Robert Santuri Jr., and I also live at 27 River Farm Road. The reason why I stand before you this evening is I have served in many different volunteer roles in my time here and as a Cranston resident, all 33 years of my life now. I've served on the Board of Contracts and Purchasing for the year. I was on the Cranston Housing Commission until very recently. You'll see my resignation later this evening. I was the chair of that for some time. I was in the Cranston Charter Commission. I was on Cranston Tax Assessment Board. I pretty much have served on a tour de force of Cranston committees. And the reason why I did that wasn't to ever run for office. I have no interest in running for office like a lot of people who put on the committees. But instead, when I became a true adult, I said to myself, I need to serve, because if you care about your community, then you need to serve your community and be involved in your community. And I'm also a member of the One Cranston Health Equity Zone, and I was the chair of the Built Environment Subcommittee as well. So to say the least, I spend a lot of my time talking to people in Cranston. And I'm here this evening with no titles. I have no titles in Cranston anymore. Instead, I'm here as a son for his father, and also as a resident of River Farm Road. The speeding has been a constant issue. I remember talking to Councilman Paul McCauley back in 2018, Back then, the city said that they could not put a stop sign at that intersection. And the video that my father has, the car literally T-bones another car, goes into another two cars parked, and then into a house. Someone could have died. Luckily, no one did. But I'm seeing firsthand his situation with not just that intersection and the speeding, but also with his neighbors. And, you know, I got involved because I care about this city. I love this city. I wouldn't have been involved if I didn't. And it's disheartening to see firsthand what someone has to go through. So I understand that it is not popular to try and essentially discipline bad neighbors, but bad neighbors destroy good neighborhoods. Good people leave this city constantly. People like my father who have lived here 60, 70 years of their life because they can no longer feel like their neighborhood is good enough for them because they don't feel safe or they don't feel like it is a place where they can even live anymore. So I hope someone can talk with him before he leaves from the city or something else and try and deal with this. But I also hope that this council will try in the future to address through some sort of public nuisance or something else, because I think it is high time. We try to deal with rats as an issue. We deal with all these other issues. But I think all of you who have knocked door to door have heard firsthand, besides the rats, besides the taxes, which everyone talks about, you always hear about bad neighbors. And I think it's high time the city does something about it, because otherwise good people will continue to leave this city, unfortunately. People who have served their time, people who have done their part, pay their taxes, and it's not right. So thank you for your time this evening, and I hope you listen to those words. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There be no one else in chambers? Is there anyone on Zoom, Tom, that wishes to be heard on any, oh, is there else in chambers? Okay, stop. Thanks.
Hi, I'll be brief. My name is John DeGenova. I live on Phoenix Avenue in Cranston. I've lived and worked in this city my whole life, and I'm also a member of the American Legion. Now, the American Legion is the largest veterans organization, over 2 million members. Yesterday, we observed Memorial Day, a time to honor those who gave their lives for this country. The Legion embraces and has a lot of programs for all our veterans. We used to be restricted to certain periods of time during war, but we opened up our membership a few years ago to every veteran honorably served since December 7th, 1941. So essentially every veteran. But one of the things that we always hold dear to us is to honor those that we've lost, whether it's an individual funeral or a ceremony with a lot of people, or pointing out memorials. And that's why I'm here tonight. There are many memorials in this city, state and nation, but many of them we don't notice. You might have passed by a memorial square on the drive here, not noticed the plaque up on the pole. Maybe you dropped your kids off at George J. Peters School, not knowing that that was a Medal of Honor recipient it was named after. Some of you have used the post office down on Ralph Street, dedicated to Holly Charette, lost in the global war on terror. Some of the memorials are dramatic, like the traveling Vietnam veteran memorial wall that came through the state, or what Operation Stand Down did this past weekend at Fort Adams, boots on the ground, honoring the over 7,000 lost in the global war on terror. The Legion was founded in 1919 by World War I veterans. Even though I have gray hair, I'm not a World War I veteran. But World War I is always holds a special place in the Legion. And right outside this back door is a scrolled parchment, maybe 4 or 5 panels on the wall. I wish that the young people were still here. We walk by it all the time. You probably walked by it tonight coming in here. It's called the Honor Roll for World War I. It's a list of names of everyone in Cranston who served in World War I. If you look at that memorial, you'll probably see a lot of familiar family names that are still here in Cranston today. But what I ask everybody tonight to do is when you pass by that wall, look at those names and remember that they were real people, mostly young, with hopes and dreams and future plans, people who loved them. And they left their homes in Cranston when the country called them. And the ones with the gold stars next to their names, they never returned. So just take a minute and notice that. Maybe read a name or two to yourself quietly and remember and honor them. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your service. There being no one else in chambers that wishes to be heard, is there anyone on Zoom, Tom, that wishes to be heard on undocketed matters?
I'm seeing no public comment.
At this time, public comment on undocketed matters is now closed. Next, we have election appointment of city officials. We have the appointment of Susan Maria Pires to the Juvenile Hearing Board to fill the vacancy due to the unexpired term of Kristen Haroyan, expiring December 1, 2026. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, just want to thank Ms. Pires for stepping up, and I hope that the Juvenile Hearing Board welcomes her, her addition. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan, Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the appointment of Judy Abate to the Tax Exemption Study Commission created by Mayor Hopkins under his executive order. This is not subject to a vote. This was a scrivener's error. This is an appointment and pursuant to the executive order as requested by Council Minority Leader Renzulli. So there is no vote to be taken at this time. Okay. Next, we have for executive communications, request from Sergeant Anthony Massimino to be placed on the pension roll effective end of day, May 24, 2024. Does the administration wish to be heard? And then we'll entertain a motion.
Yes, certainly. We request Anthony Massimino, Sergeant of the Cranston Police Department for decades of valued service, be placed on the pension rolls for his tremendous service to this community, and he will be missed on the Cranston Police Department. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We want to thank Sergeant Massimino for his service. Do any other council members wish to be heard? No. Okay, at this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Next, we have the legal expense analysis for the period of July 1, 2023 to May 23, 2024. There will be no votes taken for informational purposes. Do any council members have any questions or comments relative to that matter? Okay. There being none, next we have Planning Director Pizzullo status report on the comprehensive plan. I don't see Director Pizzullo here, which is not unlike last month. Does the administration have anything to add relative to the status on the comprehensive plan?
No, as we know, Director Pizzullo reports to the planning board, not the administration, and we leave that the goings on to the director as well as the council does that also. Yeah, as Mr. Pizzullo does not report to the administration, we can't order him to be here. You requested it, so no, we don't have any further to add. I think best off from the horse's mouth if he's able to come here in the future.
Okay. And he reports to the Plan Commission.
Planning Commission, yes.
Yep. Okay. Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. I guess through the attorneys, is there a mechanism for us to compel Director Pizzullo to come to these meetings? Because he regularly does not give us updates on this, and it seems as though the administration cannot compel him to be here. So is there a way to do that, or no? Do we have to put something in writing to the planning commission so that they tell him to come here, or how does it work?
Solicitor?
I'm not aware of any mechanism unless Mr. Angel and Mr. Malay disagree with me. I'm not aware of any mechanism that can be used to force his attendance. I mean, if there's an investigation, you can issue subpoenas. Short of issuing a subpoena, I don't see how you could force anybody to attend anything, including court.
Any other council members wish to be heard? No, okay. Next up, we have under Council President Communications, I have acknowledgement of Memorial Day. Memorial Day, for many of us, has different meanings. I, every year, look forward to the Bain School service that is put on by the students and the staff. This year in particular was a very touching ceremony. It brings, not just the remembrance of the sacrifice of the brave for all of our freedom, but it also, through the students, brings home the message of how that resonates today and how it impacts the children's direct lives in coming to America. There were 2 students that spoke this year, coming to America for a better life, and the sacrifices that they know others have made so that they can enjoy the freedoms that we all have in this country. And for that, I know that I am forever indebted as well, and I'm sure my other fellow council members are. We want to thank all of those for their service, both in the past and ongoing. Yep. Next, we have council member communications. We have first up Councilman Ferry and Council Vice President Vargas, whoever would like to be heard.
Thank you, Council President. We have conferred on this, Council Vice President Vargas and I, and the Tenant Association, some of the residents, and also Representative Sherry Cruz. We have been in communication, and the residents wanted us to put this information on the agenda tonight, as some of them came forward to speak, and we wanted to try and get some answers about 1890 Broad Street, some updates. And the first would be code enforcement report. Please provide any updates and fines from 1/1/21 to the present. Is there anyone from the administration here to confer on this?
Councilman, how are you? Councilman, I'll address, I'm going to try to speak slowly so that Mr. Stenographer doesn't get mad at me as usual. All 3 of the bullet points, if you will, in one email.
Do you mind if I read the rest of them then, before you do that?
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Okay. The first was code enforcement report from 11/1/21 to the present. The second was building inspection report from 1/1/21 to the present. And the third was current building permits from 1/1/21 to the present. Those are the 3 bullets. Councilwoman Vargas?
Councilmember Ferry, if, I think it might be prudent to have maybe, through the council president to, Tom Lima, provide maybe the pictures and display those. So then that way there's a little bit of a context and then we can get into those questions. Is that, if that's okay with you?
Thank you.
Okay.
That first picture is someone's back door,
That's actually,
front door. Second picture.
That is the bedroom of one of the tenants, Councilman Ferry. If I could just elaborate a little bit on that. That if, I'm not sure if you can really see it, but in that corner, pretty much there was a crack that you could actually see the outdoor of the building, so you can actually see the full, it was just a caulking. It was clearly, you can see to the outside of the building. And so there was caulking that was then placed, and I don't want to speak out of terms, but it could have been that they either came in or the tenant did it herself, and I'm not sure on that part of it. But I will say there was caulking done there, so that way it was, so to avoid any type of air or anything coming in. And then the other picture that was, which it's the same door from the previous picture, as you can also see, that apartment actually has two exits. That is one of the exits that is from the one side of the apartment. There's obviously a ditch in there. There's that hole with water. And the concern there is, let's just say in the event of an emergency where the other door is, there's, God forbid, knock on wood, a fire or anything like that. And that is the other option where the tenant would actually have to use to leave that premise. Let's just say hypothetically, if the tenant was also could not jump over or, was, in a wheelchair or anything like that, there's no way of really getting out of that actual building of that apartment through that other exit, unless it's the other one. And so so those pictures were taken with permission. When there was a press conference that actually took place in that building. And so we don't want to kind of head and take away anything else you were going to say, Councilman, but I wanted to make sure that at least we had a little bit perspective on that before you take the wheel.
Sorry, I forgot about the pictures. Thank you.
Anything else? I don't want to interrupt. Yeah. So I spoke with Ms. Marchetti this afternoon, who is with one of our housing inspectors. I spoke with Mr. Rodeo. So taking all these with a broader conversation. I can't speak to when those photographs were taken. I know it's a lovely political issue, but as far as legally, which is what I'm here to discuss, the
City Solicitor, through the Council President, if you may, with all due respect, it is definitely not a political issue. This is a safety concern. I just want to make sure we add that to the record and it's not a political.
And I'd be
Just for the
happy
record.
to address it because inspections has been out there many times, Councilwoman, many times, almost phone calls daily from the individuals that have not only testified today, but are mentioned in the testimony. I don't know where the photographs are coming from. I haven't been there. I've been there a few times. I haven't been there as many as the inspections, okay? And I have an obligation, obviously, on behalf of the safety of the individuals, okay? There is zero life safety issues going on at 1890 Broad Street. And I say that on behalf of the city of Cranston. Inspections has been out there numerous times, okay? There is one pending violation, which is part of the request of Councilman Ferry and Vice President Vargas. That is pending on June 10th in municipal court, and that has to do with the exterior of the building, the facade being redone on the building. To bring the members of the council who may not have been present here in 2021, this building was previously owned by another company, and there was an incident where someone had fallen through the second floor. The entire building had been originally deemed unsafe by the city of Cranston and the inspectors. It was since transferred ownership into the current ownership, and work began to make not only the apartment livable, but safe. As of me standing here now, the entire second floor of this building is not safe and no one is living there. simply because there is no balcony or any way for someone to get up to the second floor apartments. There's not one person living on the second floor. Every resident right now is on the first floor. The tenants of the first floor have maintained that there have been a number of violations in their apartments. Those apartments have been inspected. There were violations noted in all of the apartments, no doubt about it. They were not life safety concerns. They were protective treatment concerns, including a resealing of the tub, a screen was missing, some caulking. There were different situations such as that. Again, I want to reiterate to members of the council, I am repeating what I am being told by inspections. I was not there. I don't go to these residents. They've been, each violation was re-inspected. There's been compliance on most of them, probably 95% of the violations. Apartments were found in compliance. And then there are also some apartments that there is a re-inspection date coming up in June. As far as the outside photograph, the reason that there is a trench outside is because the balcony needs to be rebuilt to the second floor. In order to properly do that, and it is being monitored, by the way, by an outside architectural firm, not hired by the city, hired by the individual company that owns the building, RGB Architects. As I understand it, and I am not in construction, nor am I an architect, but apparently the trench needed to be dug so that the soil and the ground below can be tested properly to figure out the weight test and also apparently the density of the cement that needs to be formulated so that it can properly hold the weight bearing of the iron or the steel that is going to create the balcony. And so what you saw in that photograph is the preparation, at least, of where each pillar will go, or pillars. And those pillars apparently at some point have filled up with rain. And I know everybody in this room has had issues with rain over the last couple of months, including myself, and I've been vacuuming my basement, including this morning after last night's rain. So that is the issue as far as the trench. I know that as of today, there were people working, construction companies working on this building outside. It was confirmed to me by Ms. Marchetti. I can confirm that there is a court date coming up to deal with one issue on June the 10th. I can suggest that there was a pending matter in the district court raised by the tenants against Elmwood Realty. I'm not certain what the actual basis of the complaint. I never saw the complaint, nor was I party to it. But I do know I've been provided documentation that complaint against all three tenants had been dismissed on May 14th, pending some sort of ruling by the judge in district court. Again, I was not there. There's a question as far as permits. I would suggest that there are 3 permits currently in place by Elmwood Realty, and they have all their permits to do all the work. Whether or not it's a likable answer, whether or not people agree with me, but once you pull a permit, you have as much time as you need to complete the process. And as long as the process is moving forward from a legal perspective, someone is in compliance with their building permit. They have their permits, they are working, moving forward. And again, I want to be clear, the city is dealing with, there's 2 issues to this. There's the issue of the building itself, whether or not there are any safety issues. And then there are the individual apartments, which do fall under the code of enforcement by the city, but also more or less deal with, and what we're hearing is the problem between the tenants and the landlord, if there is one, which the city is not a party to. And the city has been constantly in compliance, in communication with not only the tenants, but also the realty company. They've done a number of compliance checks. As I indicated, there are further checks coming forward. And this matter is not over, but it is being dealt with appropriately by the inspectors, by Mr. Rodeo and his department. And so that is what I have to offer to the members of the council. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Council Vice
If
President
I may,
Vargas.
thank you. Just, sorry, just a few points on here is, I think the majority of us, if not few, were here for the incident, or terrible incident that took place, as you mentioned, Solicitor Millet, back in 2021, and different ownership. And at that point, I do recall that a lot of us came together and really made sure that, with the administration, of course, as well, with the mayor, and made sure that there was a place for the tenants to stay, that there was dinner served more than maybe a week or so. And if, I think, I want to say, and I don't want to speak on everybody's behalf that was there, but I want to say we really did try to do our best to ensure that that transition from that tragedy that took place from those tenants, they had a place to lay their head at night as long as we possibly could, with the collaboration of the Red Cross and so many other organizations across Rhode Island. You know, again, this is not political. What this is, it's more of what are we doing as a city? What obligations, what rights or not do we have as council members to ensure the safety of the tenants, of anyone here in the city, once we know what's going on here, to ensure that any tragedy, whether it's, God forbid, a fire, anything like that I had mentioned earlier takes place, and that tenants have full access to leave their apartments, or that something doesn't fall on them, or you know, along those lines. Now, I also know that I don't think the owner of that property is here. I don't think there's any representation of that, of the owner of that property. I don't know what rights, and, you know, I'll defer to you or even our city council, legal counsel as well, in terms of, I know with business owners, we could bring them in for show cause. I don't know what rights we as a council, as a body, have to bring in anyone who's an actual landlord of a building or not. So I'm happy to listen and get educated on that. Before you answer that, though, you know, the owner did reach out to me and pretty much just said, you know, you've reached out to the administration, you put this on the docket, but you haven't met with me, and I want to meet with you. And I certainly don't mind meeting with the owner, but before that, I wanted to make sure that we have this conversation in public. And if we can bring in the owner, I'm not going to meet with the owner by myself. And I'll be very clear, I will not be meeting with the owner by myself, and I'll make sure there's someone there. But I want to make sure that I know my rights as a council person, all of our rights as a legislative body, in terms of what has been done and what has not. When this issue was brought up on the docket, maybe November of last year, there was a building permit that I was told had been there already it was like a 2-year-old permit. I thought permits at some point expire, or there's a time to renew. And that's another part that I just want to make sure that there's clarity on whether building permits expired or not, or if they don't expire, does the property owner or any type of construction that's taking place there has to come before the clerk again or inspections department, whichever department they have to pull out that permit. And so the permits that you have there in front of you, when were those issued?
Well, two of them are somewhat moot at this point because they were involved with the demolition of the balcony, which has now been completed in full, I believe, in the front and the back of the building. So those are actually moot permits. The permit that I have in front. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman. Two of the permits are for demolition. And the permit I have in front of me, if you may, and I apologize because I do not have my glasses. It looks like this building, which started the construction, was July 15th of 21, excuse me. So as long as someone's doing work.
Under a different ownership? Or
No,
under the
no,
new
that
one?
that was issued to 1890 Broad Street, and it looks like at the time HPM Capital Partners. I'm not sure.
So does that transfer over to when there's a sale?
That's again, I don't know. I can certainly inquire about that. I mean, I don't know. All I know is I was told from the building inspectors that they have the proper permit. And again, nothing is stopping you, Vice President, from contacting and speaking with Elmwood Realty, or if you will, HPM Capital, if they are the same. I don't know. I've never done a search on them. I don't know if it's one is the other doing business as. I don't know. Everyone seems to be throwing out the name Mr. Butler. I know he's a principal. I don't know if there are other members involved. I don't know anything. And to be quite frank, and I don't mind placing it on the record, I haven't spoken with Mr. Butler. And the reason being is because he's represented by counsel. So I am limited as an attorney from speaking to someone who's represented by counsel. So everything I know in dealing with them is dealing with Mr. Litwin, who represents Mr. Butler's company. Stephen Litwin, he's the attorney. I've dealt with him, and I've dealt with my own departments within the city. I have not had any conversations with Mr. Butler. There's nothing prohibiting you from having one, or any member of the council, whether it be individually or otherwise. I'm not here to stop that or to encourage it. But as a member of the bar, I cannot do that. So I go through Mr. Litwin, and the information I have, everything I have in front of me, by the way, is coming from our inspections department, not from Mr. Litwin. Okay. So
I'm not trying to say this person should be cited, that person should not, but not often, but I have seen where we as a city, we have an inspections department, and at what point do we consider a place not safe? So if this building, or any building for that matter, was to be under construction for 5, 10 years, and we still see that aren't we required that if there's 2 exits, that at least one be in the safest conditions to exit if the other one was to be blocked?
again, the housing code is created by the state of Rhode Island. It's enforced by our department.
And
So-
have we enforced it?
We are enforcing it. Our Ms. Marquetti and the entire department have been to 1890 Broad
Okay.
Street numerous amounts of times. They receive phone calls from the tenants. They go out there. They receive phone calls from Elmwood Realty. They address that. There's a big back and forth. The city's main concern is whether or not the safety of the public is being addressed, which is why I was present as you were, as was Council President Marino, when the building was deemed unsafe back in 2021. I was there as well. It was unsafe. And it was unsafe because of the balcony and people nearly falling through the balcony. Well, that has been ultimately addressed because the balcony no longer exists. So the safety of the public is being addressed by our inspections department. And I trust Ms. Marquetti or any other member of the department to issue an immediate citation should they find something that the safety of the public is in danger, immediate. It's not. There may be violations of a screen or other violations, which are not to say they're not violations, nor are they not to say they shouldn't be cited. But it's not a safety of the members of the building and the members of the public.
So again, I'm not trying to be punitive. I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm not trying to say someone should be cited, but I also want to make sure, but what I do want to make sure is that folks that are not just living there, but are safe, but then just wondering what our responsibility as a council or as a city in general, right, is in terms of, we know what's taking place. Again, I'm going to just use the example that was just shown on the screen. There's only one exit. There's a huge pitch. Because we know of it, I just didn't know what we can or cannot do in a case like this. And the fact that, again, it's been an ongoing issue
Vice
for a
President,
few years.
I get it. I get it. I understand that there are people in the audience who have major concerns. I get it. I'm not blowing that off. Inspections goes out. That is not my job, and I'm not passing the buck. They go out there and they've seen that. They have not deemed that to be some sort of safety violation because it's been there. I don't know when that photo was taken, but that the trench has been out there for a little while because it's part of the process of getting the balcony up for the second floor. It's been an ongoing issue. There are 2 doors to the apartment. So it's not like one door is blocked and I can't get out of the, right? I'm not saying I wish that on anyone, nor do I hope it ever happens. I'm not even close. But that door, that picture that you just showed, opens. And there's another door. No, but there's another door, the front door and the back door. My point being is, if inspections went there and there's a concern, a life safety concern, it would immediately be noticed. And it may be worse. Maybe they would shut down the building as we did in 2021. I don't know. I don't want to speak for inspections. But that's what they're looking for. They're not looking necessarily for the small violations.
Solicitor, thank you so much for your response. And I really hope, given the fact that you're an attorney and you're representing the city, that nothing happens to any of those tenants or anyone that is living under situations just like that. It's easy for so many folks that may either watch Zoom or may be here, may be reading it to say, then why are they there? Have them move. The point of the matter is that they're there and it's that they're paying their rent. It is affordable housing first and foremost. It's really hard to come by, but it is, I personally think, and I'm taking off my one hat as a council, is that I don't think it's a safe structure, but I'm not an architect, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not the building inspector. And I'm wondering, at what point does this property become inhabitable in terms of tenants living in certain apartments or not? Given, and that's just a few pictures. And by the way, that picture was probably taken March, April.
So
About?
again, Vice President, excuse me, Vice President, I will speak to inspections tomorrow. I will ask them to go back out and relook at the apartment based on your concerns. They're not frivolous. I'm not making, be happy to. It's not my job. I'm happy to send inspections back out with the permission of the director and have them do another inspection to deal with that, what exactly you just showed. But again, I want to say, to show a picture from 5 months ago at a meeting in May is not really fair, at least to the inspections department, who has been out there on a regular basis. And I don't find that to be a fair and accurate representation of what the property looks like today.
All right. Before I go to Councilman Ferry, I saw your hand up and then take others. Solicitor Millet, I just had a couple of questions. With respect to this issue, you mentioned that you're aware of some permits, building permits and other permits that were issued relative to this property. You represented that one of them was from July of 2021 and under the name of a different owner than the current owner. And I understand you don't know if that specific permit has expired or is transferable to the new owner.
According to inspections, it hasn't expired, work is still being done. Whether or not it's been transferred, or whether or not that's the same owner that is, again, I don't know whether there's a legal entity that is Elmwood Realty doing business as Elmwood Realty, and that's something separate and apart. According to Mr. Rodeo, the head of inspections, the permit that they possess is valid and is current. That's what I've been told.
And what's the nature specifically of that building permit that supposedly hasn't expired?
To construct doorway shelters and temporary shoring of second floor egress balconies, to provide temporary egress until repairs and reconstruction of rear balconies are completed. And it says under separate permits and design documents, which is currently going on now.
And I defer to you, you're the solicitor. Did I misunderstand? That sounded like that dealt with the second floor. I heard balconies. I didn't hear anything relative to the first floor.
There's nothing going on the first floor.
Okay.
Madam President, just to refresh the recollection, the reason that this property was originally deemed unsafe was the second floor balcony, someone nearly fell through it. It was the second floor balcony which created a problem. It was required to be fully torn down, not only in the front of the building, but in the rear of the building. That is the two permits to allow for the destruction of those two balconies. According to engineers and architects, new footings have to be designed and are currently being designed and being built as we speak, surrounding both sides of the building, front and back, to provide for a second floor balcony, which would support the weight of the iron, the people, staircases, whatever, to allow people entrance and egress into the second floor apartments. Those balconies are not yet completed because the footings are not yet completed. That's the photo that was shown, the trench, the water that is people are complaining about, the moat. That is what's being done to test the soil, to test the cement, the weight. Again, all things an engineer and an architect would understand. I don't fully understand it. But that's what's being done on both the front and the rear of the property.
And I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. And then those balconies would have to be constructed and then attached to the building according to code.
Are there any other current building permits associated with that property other than that one that you mentioned?
Those are the ones I've been provided. Those are the ones that they have. It's for the second floor balcony on both sides.
From July 2021?
Correct.
Okay. And do we know how often inspections is going out, given that it's over 3 years?
Quite regularly.
Okay.
Because they're receiving complaints about the individual apartments on the inside. So inspections has been going regularly to 1890 Broad Street to not only inspect individual apartments, but to also look at what's going on the outside. As of today, construction was going on in the quad area, I'll call it, to use college terms.
Councilmember Ferry?
Yes. We could go on for hours with this tonight, so I'll be very short, okay? We obviously have a situation that's been going on for 3 years, okay? People's lives are affected. Progress has been at a snail's pace. I think everyone would agree with that, okay? What I think, there's rats like crazy in the place, okay? It's disgusting to look at the building. It's right next to a school, okay? All these things exist for 3 years. I'm sure some things have happened in the last couple of weeks, but for 3 years, they've had broken windows, they've had rats, they've had no access to some of their doors, broken windows, cracks in the walls, okay? Those things have existed for 3 years. What these people want, I think, okay, is to know that we are doing everything in our power to get them to the finish line so they can live without feel threatened and being in danger. That's what they want, okay? So sometimes you just got to kick somebody in the butt and say, let's get this done. Not to say, well, we go there regularly or we do go. I know we do that, okay? Maybe we're short inspectors. I'm not blaming you or Anthony Moretti or anybody else. The bottom line is these people want this to move along. So we got to do our job as a city. Forget about Republicans and Democrats and political. As a city, as a council, as an inspection department, as an administration, it's been 3 years. Let's give these people some peace of mind and go there and say, let's get this done. That's our job. And I say that with my heart, not my political affiliation. We need to move this along. We need to go there and tell this guy the snail's pace is not good enough. These people want to live in an apartment and they want to feel safe, and they deserve that. And they've been paying the rent. So somebody's got to get on his case and get him done with this. Please, let's do it as a group. All of us will sign the paper tonight. I'm sure all 9 of us will sign it and say, let's do this, please. Thank you.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. Solicitor, do you know when that building was deemed safe to move back into the first floor?
Mhm.
That trench was not there. That happened after people already moved in. Do you know?
Can
Or
you
can you find out if you don't know?
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry, Councilwoman.
So the building was unlivable. And
Correct.
then at some point, inspection said that people could move into apartments on the first floor, as I
Correct.
understand it, and that housing is needed, so it's not like there was just places for people to go. I understand that. At that time, were there 2 exits? Was that trench there? They were already working on this building before people moved in, obviously, to get it livable.
I think I understand your question, and I'm going on my memory, not by having been there recently. But I'm pretty positive that every apartment has a front door and a back door, whether it be on the first floor or the second floor. So no entrances or exits were created and or blocked. The trench is out, if you will, 7 or 8 feet, give or take. It's the width of the balcony because that's where the poles are going to be. Again, if that doesn't answer your question, I apologize. That's more of a question for inspections. But
Nope, that was not my question, but that helps me visualize it because I pictured it like a foot out the door. So people can get out that back door, but in 6 more feet, they're gonna end up in a trench? Is that? Like a foot out the door? Okay, so if you're incorrect, as they live there, they probably know. I'm just wondering if you can find out, was the trench there when they were told they can move back in? Or did they move in with no trench and then one day there was one?
I'd be happy to acquire that as inspections. I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I don't have the answer.
And then I don't know if this is a legal question or a code question. And if it's not a legal question, can you please find out if there are time limits on work when you have made a place habitable again? Like you make it habitable, people are gonna move in, you're gonna do work. It can only take 90 days, 100 days. How long, is there a time frame where this has to be done?
No.
Or is there not?
From what I understand from inspections, as long as work is being done, the permit is considered valid. And there have been, according to, speaking to inspections, there's been some problems with, don't forget, this all happened during COVID. There were supply chain problems. There were, according to them, engineer problems, hiring the right engineer, finding out the steel, the balcony, the whole 9 yards. This has all taken a while. And by the way, and I say this, I have no dog in the fight whatsoever, obviously representing the city. I have no dog in the fight. But I would have to assume that the landlord wants this building fixed as soon as he possibly can, because there's about, I don't know, 30 units upstairs that are no longer being rented. So there's rental income to someone, whatever that number is, I have no idea and I don't care. But I have to assume that he bought the building, he has a note on the building, he's paying a note every month, and yet he's not collecting or realizing the potential of the income from that building. So it's in his own best interest to finish it as quickly as possible as well. That's the only thing I can offer.
And that makes total sense to me. But at no point do we have any authority, if I'm going to exaggerate here, 10 years from now, if that trench is still there, no one can do anything legally? I'm just wondering.
I mean, we don't, if there are legal options for the tenants, that's up to the tenants. I mean, I give no legal advice. As far as the city is concerned, so long as work is being done and the proper permits are pulled, and there are no dangerous conditions, you know, putting life in danger, it's not in the realm of the city. It's a private problem between, or concern between tenants and a private ownership. I mean, we're doing everything as far as the city has to do, as far as as far as inspections are concerned, okay, which isn't my department. Okay, I'm not passing the buck, nor am I blaming anyone. As far as inspections is concerned, they are going out there on a regular basis. They are addressing concerns of the tenants. And the code is created by the state of Rhode Island. They're there to enforce the code. If there's a violation, they're noting it. If there's compliance, they're noting it. If it needs to be brought before municipal court, they're bringing it before municipal court.
Thank you, Solicitor. I do remember when this happened originally, I was there with the tenants often with Lamas. We even threw a little girl a birthday party. So I was there every day for a month, but we have to probably in here figure out what we can do to help this situation. I remember at the time, the city was also limited in what they could do because this was private property. So we might have to take this offline as just residents of the city who are trying to help other residents of the city, if that's the case. Or we have to ask the state, because the state has mechanisms to do things here too. And I know that state law always trumps city law, so if there's something that the state should be doing, then maybe we can call our reps and see what they suggest to do. There are other people that we can call if the city is limited, so I just think that we should probably do that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Haroyan.
How many families are living in these apartments in these conditions right now?
Does the administration know? Does the administration know?
No, the administration does not. And also is empathetic as everyone can be. Unfortunately, that people might look at it that way, but they also have property rights. And the city cannot overstep and you can't overpressure. And then we'll be subject to a lawsuit from the property owner. So what the city can do is enforce the laws. Sometimes we don't like the laws, but if that's what the tools in our toolbox have, that's what we have to do. In terms of the number of tenants and all, we don't have those statistics. I don't think we, I think it's overstepping. We can ask to voluntarily get that information, but at the same time, we don't want to overstep. You cannot overpressure and have undue influence also on a situation because people on both sides have rights.
Before I call another council member, I mean, clearly there's landlord-tenant issues and there's process of the judicial system and resources there, but there's a duty upon the city in terms of inspections. And, that's why Councilman Ferry and Council Vice President Vargas brought up this issue this evening relative to the obligations that the city has for inspections in inhabitable and safe conditions. Other council members that wanted to be heard, Councilman Wall?
I'm not going to add anything really new to this, but I saw some of the pictures. I saw the initial picture of I guess it was referred to as a trench and sometimes a moat. I mean, just think about the terms we're using where these people have to enter their home every day. First, you step over the trench, or maybe it's a moat, or maybe it's a pool of some sort with mud and stagnant water. If we're condoning this as a city, as a state, it's just wrong-minded. So I'm not going to add anything new to it, but my commentary, it kind of sickens me. And I saw the other pictures. There's trenches all around that building. We can pull a permit to leave someone's residence like that in perpetuity, and that's okay? I just don't see it that way.
Councilman Donegan?
Thank you. I agree with what pretty much everyone has said this evening, and particularly what my colleague to the right of me just said. I think over the years, and certainly with this situation, one frustration that we often have is that it's difficult to get information from certain departments. And I'm not blaming you, Director Moretti. And the inspections department is particularly difficult. I think that what would be helpful for us as a body to determine what's going on and for us to have the full context is to have a complete report of every visit the inspections department made, every violation found, every follow-up, the date, the people present from January 1 through the present. We need that in writing, every single one. If I have to put in a public records request, I'll do it. But I think as a member of the city council and within our purview under the charter, we have the power to enact and repeal and amend ordinances for the public health, safety, welfare of residents. And I think having all of that information will best enable us to do that. So I don't know if it's going to take a month to get that, but I would hope we can have that by the next council meeting. If there's any questions about what I'm requesting, I'm more than happy. If there are, please let me know and I can put that in writing.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Council Vice President Vargas?
Council President, there are some pictures that are going around. I was wondering if I could put a motion to add them to the record.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Horoyan. Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campopiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Councilman Wall.
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Now that what's being circulated, those photographs have been added to the record. Director Moretti, did you wish to be heard on something?
Yes, Councilman Donegan's request through the chair, if you don't mind me asking, you mentioned you're looking for the records from January 1st. You mentioned, what year is that? The
2021.
So you're saying when Mayor Hopkins took office, you don't care about under Mayor Fung and the prior administration, only under the Hopkins administration?
I'll be entirely honest with you. My thought process is I'm looking in front of me and the request that's here is January 1, 2021, that I'm just mirroring that,
Okay,
what's on the document.
You're welcome to whatever record you want, but it's just coincidental. It's under Mayor Hopkins, which is fine, which is nothing to hide. Happy to do it. But if you wanted anything prior to that, I'd be happy to provide it also.
When was the city incorporated?
1910.
Go back to 1910. I'll take 1910. I mean, Director,
No, it's coincidental.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Campapiano.
Thank you, Council President. Can we just make sure that we all get a copy of these? Can they be sent through email or maybe physical copies?
They haven't even made their way yet to me, but they're part of the record, and so the clerk can circulate them. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Has all council members seen these photographs? Okay, I'm going to give these to the clerk, and then clerk, if you can maybe scan them and distribute them to council members in the coming days. Thanks.
Council President, if we can get an
Yes.
email of them with photos, I can just get that to her and she can email it to all of us.
I just asked the clerk to scan it
Oh, okay.
in the coming days and then email it to everyone.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, next council member communication is Councilman Donegan.
Thank you, Council President. So what I put on the agenda is enforcement of the lead safe homes ordinance and just some round on the lead safe homes ordinance. So that was passed, I believe, last year. And the genesis of that ordinance was actually after seeing what happened on Broad Street. I had proposed a safe homes ordinance which would require inspections done proactively every 5 years for rental units in the city to ensure safe housing for all rental units in the city. That received pushback, so I tried to limit this, limited the subsequent proposal to just dealing with lead issues in the city. And it is an issue in the city. 3.1% of children tested, and there were over 800 Cranston children tested according to Rhode Island Kids Count, entering kindergarten next year have lead poisoning. And that's higher than the rest of the state when you extract the 4 core cities. So there's a need for it. And that's why it's important that we enforce, well, I mean, it's important we enforce what's on the books because it's important that we enforce what's on the books. But it's important that we enforce something like this because it has a direct impact on everything from educational outcomes to physiological and physical health and well-being to economic output to a myriad of issues. And so I'm hoping that this ordinance, which merely just requires the city to enforce what's already on the books on state law, it gives us an enforcement mechanism that we're going to be proactive in doing so. We stayed enforcement until June of 2024, despite this being passed, I think in October of 23, to give time for a plan to be put in place for enforcement. So I'm here tonight asking, what is the plan to enforce this ordinance?
To the administration, would you like to answer Councilman Donegan's question?
Better. How'd you know that? Pretty good. The only thing I can address is the general law is 42-128.1-8, which deals with lead paint, as you're aware. You are correct. As of January 1st of this year, it started different regulations for houses that were built prior to 1978, I believe, which, to be quite frank, probably covers 70 to 80% of the city. It does specifically speak to, there's 2 parts of it. One dealing with, it only affects someone who has taken possession of the property after 2005, I believe. I could be off on that number, but I believe it's anyone that took title to a property after 2005. And then the other part of it is whether or not they're renting out to someone who is considered, and I'm using air quotes, I don't, not disrespectfully, at risk. And that's defined within the statute as someone who has a child, I believe under the age of 6, or someone who is pregnant. I believe that those are considered the at-risk tenants, according to the statute. The biggest issue in dealing with what you're asking is that two things. When the ordinance was passed, I don't believe it was passed with a fiscal note. We just went over this in the last conversation. Inspections is short inspectors. That's number one. The city would need at a minimum of 2 full-time inspectors based on the size of the city, the population, and the age of all of our properties to kind of enforce the nature of the statute, the ordinance, which is obviously, and I say this right on the record, in good faith. It was done in good faith. I don't think you ever intended, nor would anyone intend that. It's for the safety of the people of the city of Cranston. That being said, it's defined by state law, and the Attorney General's Department actually is the one that is responsible for that. They, as of me standing here, have not created a database. They anticipate a database being available, hopefully starting around October of this year. That's there, according to the correspondence with our inspections division. Unless and until a database is created and is accessible by our inspections of what we have now, there's zero way to enforce the ordinance. Because we don't know who has the property. We don't know who's subject to the lead certificate. We don't know any of those numbers. And unfortunately, going back to our prior conversation, it's the building code that's created by the state of Rhode Island that's being enforced. So everything kind of flows back, and it's not it's no disrespect to the Department of the Attorney General. It's no disrespect to the state. That's just how the statutes are written. And until that database is created, it would be next to impossible to enforce the ordinance. Not saying somewhere down the line it can't be, but that database needs to be created first. And they're giving us an October date.
Wouldn't, and obviously I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to some of the statutory stipulations of the Rhode Island general laws, but in terms of an administrative enforcement of the ordinance, I mean, there is an existing, I think it's through the Department of Health, they have a log of addresses who have a lead certificate, and those, and with an additional accompanying like expiration date. Couldn't we just start by looking at ones for properties that had a certificate and it's expired and start there? Couldn't we start with sending a letter to 1979 structures and say, this might apply to you, to at least start educating people that this is going to be coming?
Again, Councilman, it gets above my pay grade, and who's going to do it? We don't have any inspectors to do it. There's no money in the inspection budget to hire an additional 2 inspectors, to hire someone to go through the land records in the clerk's office for anything that's prior to 1978. Once we have that, to cross-reference a list, maybe with the Department of Health, it needs to be a database, and the database needs to be accessible not only to the city of Cranston, but to every city and town in the state of Rhode Island. And that's, I think, the goal of the Attorney General's office, to create that. But without that center, it's next to impossible to find out who has one, who needs one, who should have one, whether or not they then fall, yeah, you're supposed to have one, but you don't have anyone at risk, so you don't fall under the statute. And again, it just comes down to financial of addressing that with the city. I know that's not the answer you want, Councilman, and I apologize, but that ultimately is the issue.
Solicitor, I have a great amount of respect for you, and I don't mean this to insult you in any way, but what I'm distilling this down to is the city is not going to enforce it.
The city doesn't have the means to enforce it right now, Councilman. They do not have the, and again, it's a lack of personnel, it's a lack of funding, it's a lack of having a research, but ultimately, as I said, the inspections department has been in contact with the state. The database that they want to create under the statute, which will allow for the enforcement, doesn't exist. And they hope to have it up by October of 2024. That's the answer that the city is getting from the state of Rhode Island.
So could the inspections department confer with our tax assessor? I would imagine that the tax assessor would be able to run a report on pre-1979 structures within the city, export that into an Excel sheet, merge to a mail print, create letters, and print out and send a letter out to these addresses. I mean, I just can't imagine it being that.
I don't even want to guess at half of what you just said because I don't fully understand computers. But understanding in my reading of the statute too, is that it only deals with properties, certain properties, and it only deals with properties that are being rented out. So it's another big issue, Councilman. It's not just that a house was built before 1978. My house was built in 1952. I'm under no obligation. I can live with the lead paint if there is lead paint forever. So there's multiple layers, unfortunately, to the general law. And I don't know, I certainly won't speak for the administration on whether or not the tax assessor's office has that, not only the ability, but the manpower to do that. I don't know. It sounds like something that can be done, but I couldn't speak to that. So, and I want to try to, and I don't, and I want to say, Councilman, I don't take it as an insult at all. I don't.
Well, then I guess I would say, what I would suggest is, and it's not my job, but just a suggestion, to try and to attempt to capture where this might be applicable. If the tax assessor can identify pre-1979 structures, and we just want to send the letters to multifamily houses in the city, under the presumption that there's probably a fairly good chance that this would apply to them, cast a broad net and say, hey, this is an ordinance that is in effect here in the city. It might apply to you. It's better than doing nothing while kids sit in Cranston Public Schools and are struggling because they're dealing with lead poisoning at home. I mean, in 1949, the UN declared housing a human right. And it's these kind of things that we need to address to make that a reality. And I just don't think we're doing enough. And I don't think what I'm hearing, I don't think we're doing enough to enforce this ordinance. We've had 7 months to plan for it.
Council Vice President Vargas, then Director Moretti.
All right, I'll just try to make this quick. I mean, if what I'm hearing is that there's really no funding at this moment at all to do any type of enforcement, and I echo the sentiment of my colleagues, in terms of educating our residents, it might be too late at this point for like the tax bill. I remember we used to use a tax bill for the recycling and some other type of communication, that I think one of the former council members really urged for that to take place. June is Healthy Home Month. I'm just wondering if there's any opportunity here that we can start at least let folks know of what's in the books. And possibly if there's no room to enforce, at least let's start educating the public with some sort of social media platforms or anything on our end, letting them know that it could be enforced or will be enforced at some point in the near future. But it really starts also with educating folks in terms of the ordinance that we currently have in our city code of ordinance. That's all. Thank you.
Director Moretti?
Yes, I believe the database is scheduled now to be up. It's delayed from the state. And if we can attach it to that, let's face it, we're going to be saving so much time and energy and cost. Right now it's scheduled October 1st to be live. Right? That's what I've been reported back to me. It looks like a 3-month delay. I don't know if that's acceptable. I could say if we start trying to do this July 1, we're going to be draining resources out of that department. And it's kind of we can, I'm sure we can obtain a database of houses built for us 78 or prior. The question is, are they rental properties? And I can check, but I don't believe the tax assessor differentiates between a rental unit and a non-rental unit. They go by ownership. If they have it broken down as a rental property, that will help narrow it down. So I'll be happy to look into that. Otherwise, it's a needle in a haystack, sending letters to people, which by the way, aren't cheap. I don't know what postage is nowadays. And if we could do all that within budget, that the resources that the council provided, be happy to do it. Because I did raise a point of concern at the time this ordinance was passed. There should be a fiscal note attached because there will be, of course, I was struck down to say there wouldn't be. So, but certainly, given the budget we have, we will do everything we can to do it. I could tell you it'd be much more efficient, I believe, once that database is live in October. So we would lose 3 months on the timing, but I think we'd save a lot of time. If there is a way of narrowing down, doing filters to houses prior to 78 and that are rental properties, I think that's could make a valiant try and put a dent in that. Just having houses before 78, it's going to be, we'd have to really give that further thought, frankly, to send letters to private residences and they're not rental, so on and so forth. But certainly we'll take that input, go back and see if we can match some databases if it makes practical sense. Otherwise, I think it might make more sense to just delay for the 3 months, but we will take a peek at that.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. To Council Vice President Vargas's point, we do have the mechanism of using the schools perhaps in the meantime to send out when they send out their Friday flyers. If we want to send out a flyer to remind people with children are at a higher risk, we start there. And I know it's not a great fix to this problem, but I don't imagine with the limited resources that we have to spend, that we need to get Broad Street taken care of. We need to get a lot of other things taken care of in the city. Any work that goes towards that, it's probably not going to be finished before the state database is even done. So it would kind of be wasting time that could be used on these other things. But if we start there and let people know, in Spanish and in English, these are your rights, and everyone can look up when their house was built from their phone on Zillow, it might be it just might be a Band-Aid until we have the database. Thank you.
Any other council members wish to be heard? Councilman Wall, I can't tell if you have your hand up. No? Okay, sorry. Okay. Thank you, Councilman Donegan. I think we're all dismayed to hear that the enforcement is not occurring. Thank you. Next up, we have an agenda item from Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you, Madam President. The ACLU spoke earlier during public comment referencing a letter that they sent to all of us. I would like to make a motion to enter that letter into the record.
So moved.
Second.
And any discussion from council members? Councilwoman Ronzulli, do you wish to be heard?
Oh, wait, so do we have to vote on putting it in the record though, or no?
Nope, discussion
Okay.
on what's currently pending.
Okay, thank you. So as the representative from the ACLU said, there are concerns that I have tried to bring up before unsuccessfully, and I hope that this is the last time that I have to bring it up. I would like a legal opinion from our council attorney that gives us a little insight and some clarification on our investigatory powers and what actually constitutes official conduct of someone on the city council. And this also applies, to employees of the city and anyone that we have on a board or commission. And I think that we all need to know that answer.
In the absence of specific facts, I'm really hesitant to give an opinion in public, a legal opinion to guide the council. Usually opinions are given in written form for client use. If you're asking specifically what the council's investigatory power would be in a circumstance,
I'm asking, now let me reword my question. We have the authority under 3.17 to investigate a member of the city council or an employee of the city or someone on a board or commission in relation to their official conduct. So what do you consider official conduct? Because to me, that's us doing our job as council people or people serving as a board. It's relative to that board. Employees of the city, it has to do with their work at the city.
to a large degree, I think the terms official conduct are a term of art to be interpreted by the body investigating.
You think the body should determine what
And the
official
body should
conduct
determine
is?
what comes before it for investigation. No one person on this council can start an investigation.
Okay, so no one person on this council has the duty to investigate.
I didn't say duty. I said has the authority.
Okay, so how would it work if perhaps
You
we
put it
wanted
as an
to?
item of new business, the council would vote to investigate or not.
Okay. No, it's Attorney Angel, are we to assume that our lives outside of being on this council how could that possibly be part of official conduct? I just don't understand how we would.
How your
how we
life or
decide
anybody
that.
else's life could be part of an investigative proceeding is a law school question that would take weeks for me to lecture on. And I'm not going to go through every single permutation of that as I stand here. That's foolishness. If there are particular facts, then I'm happy to give an opinion, and I would give a private opinion to the council as my client, not in public.
So the charter is allowing us to decide what our official conduct is. There is no legal definition of official conduct for a public official. It doesn't have to do with our jobs as public officials.
As I said before, I view the terms when used this way, official conduct, to be a term of art to be interpreted by the body investigating the conduct.
So would that mean from, as this group changes, which it does often, that one time we could do it one way, the next group decides that the same situation that was handled differently in the past, no, we believe that the same situation is now official conduct. How is that possible? How is that fair going forward? I think that what the
I don't have
ACLU
any
wants us.
judgment. I don't have any judgment on fairness, but different groups, just like different legislatures throughout the course of mankind, are entitled to interpret words differently. That's how the law evolves. in this particular context, investigatory powers of this council have been used infrequently, to my knowledge, and have never been used in the time that I've been here, or that I've been exposed to city government, quite frankly, which is quite a while. Again, this council would have to consider specific factual circumstances and vote as a group as an item of new business to determine whether or not it would investigate the conduct of an individual or group of individuals. Now, I'd be constrained to point out that the code, there is a code of ethics that's been adopted in the city of Cranston, which does talk about the appearance of impropriety and things of that nature. The council can read that. It also adopts the state code of ethics and statements on the code of ethics in the state constitution. That does not mean that this group can substitute its judgment for those items, for example, that are within the purview of the State Ethics Commission to determine perhaps what a conflict of interest is. So there are limits to that. State law and the state constitution would necessarily trump most, if not all, local ordinances and even your local charter. So, but the code is pretty clear that it does give a very broad grant of accountability for all public officials, appointed or elected, with respect to the air of impropriety, as well as some other things. And I would suggest that that particular code of ethics would perhaps be best used to inform what official conduct may or may not be. Again, we're speaking in hypotheticals and we're speculating, so I'm doing the best I can with that.
So if there was a question of someone's ethics, you say, is it your opinion that that's something that we could investigate here? Does the state law not trump that to go to the Ethics Commission, and that's why we have one?
Well, let's be clear. So ethics is in and of itself a philosophy that is informed by law, religion, social mores, a variety of different things. There are courses that are taught on ethics. The state ethics law addresses in particular conflicts of interest that arise out of an individual's personal gain or the gain of their family, remunerative or other, relative to their elected or appointed positions. So it is a narrow view into the world of ethics, and it is defined by the code itself.
Attorney Angel, were you the attorney that advised Council President on the case of Anish Jermaine?
I'm the attorney that advises all 9 people in this room, to whom I advise to what advice I may give them is governed by the rules of professional conduct as dictated by the State of Rhode Island Supreme Court. That's my answer to your question. Just as I have advised former Council President Paplaskas, just as I have advised you, Councilman Campopiano, Councilman Ferry, Council Vice President Vargas, Councilwoman Horoyan, Councilman Wall, Councilman Donegan, and Council President Marino.
And in this case, what advice did you give regarding?
As I said, I
Holding-
will not discuss any advice that I give to any individual member of this body or as to the body of a whole in public unless the body votes to have that disclosed. Only a client can release the lawyer from his obligation to reveal secrets.
Are you saying that you have like an attorney-client privilege with Councilwoman Marino individually?
With every single member of this council, just as you have contacted me on matters pertaining just to you.
But this is I would question that this is a matter that doesn't pertain individually to Council President Marino if she cannot act on it alone, as you started this
I
whole
don't-
thing off
I
with.
don't-
She
I don't know
cannot
who-
have an investigation on anyone
I don't know
without
who acted
voting
how.
here.
I have no idea what people did to act on this particular issue. How would I know that? I don't know what phone calls have been made, what emails have been sent. I have not the foggiest clue. We're speculating again.
I did not mean to give the impression that you would know all that. I was just asking what your advice, if you were the attorney, in the Herald it named you, but I don't remember a council president naming anyone. She just said legal counsel. So I am trying
As a
to,
practicing lawyer, subject to the rules of professional conduct, I do not disclose the advice that I give to individuals, nor am I in a position to disclose the names of the individuals to whom I give that advice unless those individuals make themselves known to the public. It's not that I have, it's not at my election that I don't disclose. I am required not to speak by the rules of professional conduct. And I will not violate that oath for you or anyone else.
Attorney Angela, I am not suggesting that you
Well,
violate.
you asked me a
any-
question.
I know,
I've
but I'm,
given you an answer
I
to your
under-
question. You
I-
don't like the answer, but that's
No.
my answer.
Attorney Angel, respectfully, I asked you a question.
And I
You
answered
gave me
it.
an answer. You
Yep.
you added a little bit onto the tail end. And I just let you know that that's not what I meant. Okay?
Oh, rephrase your
I
question.
did not write this letter. The ACLU wrote this letter that compelled us to have this conversation.
I'm not talking about their letter. The letter is moot as far as I'm concerned.
Attorney Angel, I am well aware that I am at a disadvantage asking an attorney questions, okay? I understand that. I just want to know if you believe that our official conduct as council members involves our outside professions or personal life. Can you answer that?
And I've answered that question.
I don't believe you have. Could you answer it again?
I'm not, can I have it read back, Mr. Ronzio? I gave an answer as to a term of art. Okay, I'll do the best that I can for the 5th time. The terms official conduct are a term of art to be interpreted by the body, this body, that would necessarily conduct the investigation. It means what it means at that particular point in time to this body against the factual backdrop of what is being presented to it as to what one's conduct may be. That's my answer.
Okay, in this situation involving Councilwoman Jermaine in regards to her nonprofit and their tax situation, would you say that that is part of her official conduct as a city council member here in Cranston?
I'm not giving an opinion on that in public. And it's a moot point.
We have a lot of discussions in here that some might consider are moot points, but I don't think it's a moot point.
I'm
That's
not
why I asked it.
passing a legal judgment on that in public. There's an ongoing investigation with the state police, and there's no matter before this council with respect to any one individual's official conduct. So there's no point in me giving an opinion, nor will I. You can certainly ask Mr. Malay or Mr. Videcchio. Why don't you ask them?
I was trying to finish with
I
you
will,
first.
I will
you know.
cede the floor to keep the record clear. You can ask them.
Thank you, Attorney Angel. To any solicitor, we often ask for legal opinions based on our charter. We do it constantly. No one so far, since I've been on the council, has ever had an issue pertaining to giving a legal opinion on interpreting the charter. We just did it with the ARPA funds. We had differing opinions, but we're still given the opinions. The only reason that we didn't get an opinion related to Sage Drive is because there was current litigation, as far as I understand. I don't know if investigation and litigation are necessarily the same. I am asking, like I would I'm just asking, in your opinion, what does official conduct mean? The ACLU had no problem asking us to discuss what the official conduct is. So I don't understand. And excuse me if I'm ignorant, I am not a lawyer. I'm asking the questions that they are bringing up.
Councilwoman Renzulli, I will offer this. I will not speak to the specifics as to what has caused this conversation, whether it be the ACLU's letter, the investigation that is currently pending. I will not speak to specifics. I will say I may differ from the opinion given by Mr. Angel in that I believe that official conduct would deal with the official conduct of someone as an employee of the city. As each 9 people, 9 individuals sitting here are employees of the city, as am I, as is Mr. Verdecchia, as is Mr. Moretti, Mr. Angel. That's what I would consider official conduct. That's my legal opinion. I will concur at least with what Mr. Angel said in that it's not defined anywhere in the charter. But the common definition, in my opinion, of official is what you are doing in your official capacity. That being said, that answer is not, it's in a general term. I'm not speaking about any of the facts that we've just been arguing about, because I'm not going there in public. But I want to say that that's my opinion, again, for whatever it's worth. Oftentimes, Mr. Angel and I do give differing opinions. Oftentimes, we give the same opinion. And you've heard both, every member of this. So that's my answer as a member of the bar.
Thank you. I was trying to ask the question generally because I really don't understand why no one cares, but this potentially affects all of us. Any person who's ever elected here, every employee of the city of Cranston. I can't think that the unions think that their employees could be investigated by us based on something that they do outside of their capacity as laborers. I don't think that someone who is a member of a social club that has something questionable going on expects that the city council could perhaps bring them in to investigate them. So I think that that's the point that we need to discuss. And I don't know if anyone else is going to talk tonight or if it's just going to be me, but I believe the words of the ACLU that they want to know if the view of Council President Marino that the information was sufficient to trigger the council's investigatory powers reflects the view of other council members. We're writing to request the council make it clear that it does not. That is because the position is extraordinarily problematic. If we don't have the authority to engage in investigation on what someone does outside of their capacity as a council member, we need to know that. I don't know why it's a ridiculous concept to talk about. I don't think that something that goes on as a track coach could be brought before here. And I don't think that the same thing as John, I don't think something that happens at St. Ray's, we're going to bring before here. I don't think we can. That's what we have to discuss. And thank you, Attorney Millay, for giving that opinion, because I think it's pretty basic. I think anyone that can read knows what official conduct means, whether they want to say it out loud or not. We know what our official capacity is. That's all I've got.
Jenny, I'll say my piece right now. I respect the ACLU as an organization. There is a pending investigation as we sit here. Okay. The ACLU does not have all the facts. Their letter says under the facts known to them, which is through media reports. Their letter is speculative, it is presumptuous, and therefore it is conjecture. It is for those reasons that this letter should not be accepted into the record. Facts do matter. The pending investigation will play itself out relative to those facts. That is the proper forum for that. One fact that does matter is that on November 30th, 2022, Councilwoman Germain, as Councilwoman Germain, sent an email to Cranston residents, constituents, some council people, asking and promoting and accepting donations, both monetary and in the form of goods, for hope and change for Haiti, while she was also the executive director. While at the same time, at a minimum, its status as a 501c3 tax-deductible nonprofit had lapsed. The ACLU letter is conjecture, and I am inclined not to introduce it into the record for that reason. Facts do matter. At this time, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
We are voting to accept the letter?
the motion is to enter the letter into the record.
No.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion, Councilman Donegan,
No.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
No.
Council Vice President Vargas,
No.
Council President Marino.
No.
Motion fails.
At this time, moving on to new business, do I have a motion to take the matters as a block?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Horion,
We're voting on the block. Take it as a block.
I'm sorry, if people can just be.
Could everyone please be
quiet in
quiet?
Chambers, we can't hear the vote. Thank you.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes. Now do I have a motion to send the block to their respective committees?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Renzulli,
Yes.
Councilwoman Horion,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Wall,
Yes.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Yes. Informational items, we have the resignation of Kristen Heroyan from the Juvenile Hearing Board received May 15th, 2024, and the resignation of Robert Santucci Jr. from the Affordable Housing Commission received May 16, 2024. Do I have
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Have a good evening.